Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Now, when I originally started to prepare today, I thought that I was preparing for a full moon message, which, as you know, is tomorrow, August 30th, in the sign of Pisces. And I was preparing and I was getting ready to go, and literally just moments before I was about to sit down, my psyche took me on a complete left turn, and said, no, save that for tomorrow on the actual day of the full moon and just give a regular message today. Very strange, but we will see what the cards pull up. Now, the road detour was also by way of the channeled music message for today, which is Same Song by Digital Underground, also featuring Tupac. For those of you that are not old enough to know, you may recognize the Tupac name, although I think for the most part people are of age that are watching me. But just in case, Digital Underground was the group that Tupac originated with, and one of their songs was Same Song. Well, I looked it up as All Around the World, and that's what I was hearing in my head. All around the world, same song. So I just went and looked that up. All around the world, same song. Now, what you don't know, a little cinema fact, is that that song was actually featured in a movie titled Nothing But Trouble, and that's what I most connected it to, because when I was much younger, that was a movie that I saw. Now, side fact and the personal aspect, and I know this is all connected, so stick with me, it's probably going to come together in the reading in some way, shape, or form. Or maybe it's a message for you, I don't know. But the movie Nothing But Trouble was featuring Dan Aykroyd, and he was playing all these different characters and things like that. And Chevy Chase was in it as well. And the All Around the World, Same Song actually, was a musical break in the movie featuring Digital Underground and Tupac. You know, they were like the special feature or whatever, which was obviously the draw for the movie to kind of collide pop culture in a sense, because they were really popular then. But what I want to make known is that that movie used to scare the crap out of me when I was younger, because Dan Aykroyd was dressed up particularly as this judge who was real creepy and old and decrepit and hunchback, and his face was peeling and balding, and it wasn't the best makeup back then to really, drive the point home when I really look back on it, because honestly, it's laughable now and even as I got older and watched it back, it's laughable now. But at the time when I was much younger and saw it, it used to kind of creep me out, the different aspects of the movie that, were the different characters that were being played by this one particular person. Now, what that speaks to me, especially with Nothing But Trouble, All Around the World, Same Song, is, and I don't know if it's going to come up, but I just want to release it as it is. It speaks to me this evolution of sorts of our psyche, given that we're very much on the precipice of this Pisces new moon, of things that used to go bump in the night and that used to scare us and terrify us, but aren't necessarily frightening anymore. Consider what I'm expressing about the movie. I was afraid of a character who was really just in prosthetics and, pasties and all types of other silly stuff. But to me, in my immature eyes, it was creepy and almost a little bit scary. It didn't stop me from watching it, but it did kind of creep me out a little bit. Once I had grown, had a little bit of experience, a little wisdom, seen a couple other movies, maybe been around the block in the horror genre, I realized that it actually was quite comical, quite, laughable at how ridiculous Dan Aykroyd looked in all these different personalities and costumes. You know what I mean? It wasn't very believable, first of all, and it definitely wasn't anything to be afraid of. It was more funny than frightening. So I'm sensing that vibration now, that some of the things that we've been taught to be afraid of or conditioned to be afraid of are what are being revealed in a new light, especially in this light of the new moon. And I'm not going to go, I'm going to go more in depth to the new moon tomorrow. And I guess this message is actually leading me in a place that makes a lot of sense in this moment, because perhaps it's the preparation that we're being called to ground yourself to experience some things that may have once have been supernatural or frightening or scary or just, out of this world a bit, so that you won't be terrified of them and in essence resist the revelation itself. Because what's coming up in this new moon, in this full moon energy, is ultimately revealing the things of our subconscious, and those deep, dark, those astral waters that Pisces calls us to, that often, go uncharted, quite honestly, because they're a lot darker in the surface and far out than we are conventionally conditioned to travel, i.e. our intuition, our psychic prowess, and things of that sort. Things that go bump in the night, literally paranormal experiences. For some, maybe not, I'm not sure. It's just a matter, I guess, to what you're open to. But it's really the access and energy with this full moon in alignment with Virgo energy of heaven and earth, literally bringing the fantastical expressions of life to an earthly experience. So, Dan Aykroyd, the character that he played as the judge, where I said he was old and decrepit and hunchback and just looked disgusting, he was scary to me then. I looked at him as comedy now, even more so now, but he had a demonic type of demeanor. He was definitely not a good character. If you go back and look at clips of the movie Nothing But Trouble, you'll just look at a clip and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about if you've never seen it. But it was this expression of a demon that he was portraying in a comedic form, in a sense, but he was very diabolical, and he was supposed to be a judge, if I didn't say that. So he was like a diabolical judge that was just trapping people up left and right, setting these speed traps with the help of his deputies and his minions and such, and pretty much dragging people in and bringing them to their own demise, particularly targeting bankers or rich men and things like that, like in a sense trying to teach them a lesson about life, mainly because he was just unhappy with his own and the choices that he made. So keep that in mind, that some of these individuals and entities and established objective forces against you, whether it be individually or collectively so, are comedy relief at this point. They're just miserable with the choices that they've made, and as scary as they would like to project themselves to be, and maybe perhaps as scary as they once were, perhaps holding some great power and influence and making some diabolical or destructive impact on your life. Ultimately, when it came down to it, Dan Aykroyd, as the demonic judge, diabolical judge, came to his own demise. And such is life in real time. That as long as you're in the upright, there's no match for you in your most divine alignment, ultimately. Now, Chevy Chase wasn't really divine per se, but he didn't necessarily deserve the treatment that he was getting. Matter of fact, it was Chevy Chase and Demi Moore, like a powerhouse cast for the most part back then. So I guess I'm saying all that to say with good reason. Just prepare yourself for the unveiling, the revelation, the reveal of some of the deepest, darkest, it's like light being shed on the deepest, darkest aspects of your life experiences from an internal perspective, and perhaps from the outside in as well. Things that you didn't know were happening under the surface that were affecting your subconscious, affecting your psyche, unbeknownst to you, or perhaps that you even had agreement with voluntarily, but nonetheless, it's time for the light to be shed, in this super full moon, for there to be an illumination of things that have been swept under the psychic rug, so to speak, so that they can be elevated to the surface of those celestial waters, those astral waters, so that you can decide whether it's something that needs to be released or retained. And most likely, in the spirit of a full moon, we're looking to release energies, people, places, things, ideas, habits, ways of being that are not in the alignment of us ultimately creating that balance of heavenly experience on earth as we so desire to do so. Okay? And with that being said, let's get to the reading. And just so you know, which is totally in alignment with what I said, I have a hot cup of tea here that says your potential self is infinite. So in alignment, and I couldn't have picked that. So let's see what we got. Because I did a little bit of chit chat, and I think I'll probably keep it simple today. Most likely. Hermit card just slid out the bottom ever so effortlessly. And we got the High Priestess, that's Virgo and Pisces right on the top. 1 second. Oh, perfect. I'm going to take her out because that just feels right to me that we're on this Virgo Pisces axis with the moon, and then here we are with a Pisces major arcana and a Virgo major arcana. Like, it don't get no better than that. This is heaven, this is earth, ultimately. But also the Hermit card is you looking deeper within yourself. And it actually makes a lot of sense. You going deeper into your energetic, to search that energetic light that shines within, that still small voice, this is exactly what the moon is about. Ultimately, it's about you searching yourself with grounding, analyzing those aspects of yourself, as I said, that have been hidden, as the High Priestess energy can be. It's like knowledge that is covert in many ways, that a divine devotion that's not always outwardly expressed, publicly, but that is coveted in a sense by the individual that holds it. And this is the Hermit card. This is the deep diving and synergy of the two, where you're allowing yourself to be led into those psychic waters to really analyze how you come to be this individual, and ultimately what is the essence of your process, like what's making you tick at this high vibration, so that you can kind of get an idea of that process and begin to recreate it, and really to lean into it and ultimately express it, not as a secret of a secret that's coveted and covered up, but as just a daily expression of life, which the Hermit is. It's about your everyday practices. So this is about the everyday practice of divine alignment. Those essences of you that more or less have been sacred are now, or maybe even not 100% clear to you as to how your alignments have been working for you, the things that you do, maybe even simply so, that you don't even realize are actually some act of worship or sanctity or sacredness. And you just think, you just sitting in silence for 5 minutes a day, or taking 15 minutes to read your favorite book, or listen to some soothing music, or those things that we do to kind of bring ourselves back to center. You think it's just regular commonplace, but little did you know it's the very thing that is sustaining your life on a spiritual and physical plane. The Hermit card with this energy here is helping you to actually see the value of the spiritual expression of yourself and how it works, how it has been working in your everyday life, and how it can continue to advance you in your everyday life, so that those practices are no longer even behind the veil unto you, and that you can start to reverence them as just a routine in your waking life, and something that you ultimately, as I said, lean into and rely on as a practice so that you can ultimately enhance your mastery. This is spiritual mastery here. That's what I'm trying to get out ultimately. The high priestess, the hermit, that is divine alignment and spiritual mastery at its best. And we got the Page of Pentacles here on the bottom. And let's see, the Page of Pentacles. Yeah, and you know what I was saying about the movie and such. Some of us have been afraid of our own spiritual nature, afraid of the things about us that are kind of like, a little spooky, a little strange, perhaps, because like I said, the high priestess doesn't show all of her expressions of spirituality because she looks a little different and she's not always conventionally accepted, so sometimes she can, as I said, covet and cover herself literally from the external world, really to keep the sanctity and sacredness of her practice and her devotion protected, but also to protect herself from the outside world of scrutiny and dissension. Because as I said, a lot of people don't understand what you do and why you do it and how you do it and so on and so forth. But it's very much so essential to your everyday life and your everyday practice. So it's now, as I was saying about the movie, it's allowing us to maybe take the stigmas off of our spiritual essence, even unto our own selves, allowing us to see it as a value that is practical, that's not just fantastical, that matters day to day in a way that you can reverence it as something conventional, regardless of what anyone else has to say about it. But the point of it all is so that you can find reverence in the connectivity of it day to day, so that you don't disconnect yourself from it, even when it might potentially be on display, or you might potentially be on display, or at some risk of being exposed, to the public eye, or in your community, or to your family and friends, or whatever. It ultimately takes the stigma and shame for you off of what you do, so that you can be encouraged in spirit and in truth to keep at it. And the Page of Pentacles is it's like a message of sorts that even an investment, and it could seem like a small opportunity of investment, maybe even, as I said, in yourself, in this new idea of what spirituality really is. You find in some connection with, this small little seed within your self-exploration, and it making you aware of how, as I said, something very small that you were doing actually was making a big impact, not just to yourself, but perhaps universally so, or collectively so, or familially so, or societally so, culturally so, maybe on your job, maybe within your family, maybe to your children, perhaps, with the Page of Pentacles, or even in the most practical sense, this is someone or an opportunity that wants to connect with what you have because there's great value observed in it. And this is high vibrational in essence, that it may seem like a small investment or a small offer to invest or collaborate into whatever your energy is. You could be a reader, you could be a spiritualist, you could do something in the spiritual arts, or if you're not, definitely in some position of spiritual servitude or religious position, it's about you now being in a pure position to really reverence your spirituality in such a way that people on the outside looking in see the value in it and either want to invest to expand it or to co-create in some way. Like if you're a spiritualist on YouTube per se, maybe there's another creator that wants to collaborate, or there's some way that your professional spiritual endeavors can be co-creative with another who does something more or less in that vein, but just maybe a little bit differently, and you can unite forces together. Is basically saying to be open to these small seeds that perhaps can expand in dividends on account of what you ultimately coming out of hiding and secrecy with what you do, even unto yourself, and finding the value for it to be something that should be pronounced and should be reverenced in a high vibrational way. Okay. Yeah, so we're not hiding in our spiritual closets anymore. And wow, look at this. Wow. And we got the Hierophant, another expressive energy of, oh, and one more underneath. Oh, and you know what? Always a lurking, always lurking. But that's okay. That's okay, because we already know. Oh, and I didn't even see, and then we got the moon card peeking out at the bottom, but I didn't even see the Ace of Cups. Also, Pisces energy, an overflow of intuition and psychic prowess, psychic capability and power that's can no longer be contained from under the surface. That's basically that's saying to me. And this is Cancer energy, this is Pisces. And we got the Hierophant, pardon me, we got the Hierophant here, we got the Wheel of Fortune, we got the King of Wands, we got the Devil. Now I'm certain that the Devil is Capricorn, King of Wands is more or less Aries, but can be any of the fire signs. Wheel of Fortune is definitely Jupiter energy, so more or less Sagittarius vibes here. And then the Hierophant, why can't I think of what the Hierophant is? The Hierophant, it's gonna make me mad later on too. The Hierophant, I don't think it's Saturn, but it may be. I think it is, actually. I think it's Saturn. So anyway, any of those signs may matter to you. I don't typically call out signs, but I just feel guided to do so in this moment. But we got the Hierophant, which is a masculine expression of spiritual alignment in a sense. We call it the God card most primitively so, but the Hierophant can have different facets, because we could be talking about established structures. Yeah, it's Saturn. Established structures that have been created, you know, more or less man-made in the earth to be of authority, of some superior force. And we could also be talking about, you know, a breakthrough in spirituality by way of that ethereal, all-knowing source, i.e. God. So it could go either way. It's just a matter of, I guess, what you're surrendering to. But the Wheel of Fortune here is giving me that it's a changing and turning of events, an evolution of sorts, perhaps from us submitting to this lower ceiling of these deities and establishments and authorities that don't truly have. And when I say deities, I mean in the sense of it being man-made, not the deities that, you know, are more spiritualized, but it being us almost making a god out of man-made structures, you know, or the man-made essence, you know, something that is not ethereal, it's very earthly in nature, but we've given it authority over our lives energetically in some way, shape, or form. Could be people, places, or things, could be a collaborative force of people, could be a singular force, a person who has taken precedence over your life or in your life. But the Wheel of Fortune to me is the evolution of that vibration, which ultimately is, to me, purifying that presence, so that anything that is unjustified is ultimately going to be phased out in the evolution of the world, of the human spirit, of the universal order as it's ordained to be. You know, so these particular establishments and entities, say the 5 pillars themselves that we've come to submit and surrender to as superior, are getting a makeover. They're either going to be expanded to express the evolution of life force, or they're going to be diminished, finding themselves on the bottom of the wheel to ultimately reap the karmic of any unjustified expelled energy. So those certain conglomerates and establishments that have not been operating in the highest vibration for the good of people, the good of humanity, of creation, basically are going to find themselves on that lower will and ultimately subservient to the energy that they've been expelling. Those energies that are in alignment to advance the human experience and advance creation and creativity overall are being elevated to a position of power and authority in connection with ethereal force, God, the essence of God and universal power, to ultimately magnify this creativity here, so that it's not limited to what is earthly, sensational. There is no limitation. Back to my tea bag. Your potential self is infinite. This is the expression of that, where when you're in surrender to that deeper nature of self, so much so that you are, it's not a distant force. It's something that you've drawn close to and you've gone deeper within to experience, so that your actions are a mirror of that exploration. It's not the King of Wands where he's just, over ambitious, jumping off at the seat of his pants, looking to conquer every territory in sight. It's a controlled, more strategic focus, and what's Aries energy? It's very, what can I say? It's very, it's ambitious, but there's something more that I want to say about that. It's very focused on its ambition and its passion, and sometimes it can be, in a very skewed way, to have tunnel vision, in a sense, to be self-serving in a way. But this is what I'm getting, is that this Wheel of Fortune with that King of Wands, very synergized Sagittarian energy, is about relenting to the highest perspective of self to support those ambitions most in the highest frequency, so that you're not just doing things to satisfy self or just conquering off of impure passion, as here with the devil card. To me, his back is against the devil, which is a great sign, I would say, that he's looking more toward the Wheel of Fortune, which is evolution and expansion, evolving his creative force and his ambitions to something that's more universal and impacting in nature, and that is supported and guided from ethereal realms, and ultimately translates in the physical sense, as I said, as above, so below, with this Hierophant card, that it's not just confined by what's conventionally supreme and superior according to, what man has created, or what we have been conditioned to commit to, or conditioned to be controlled by, in a sense. It's not that matter of control where he's only able to operate within the functions of the confines of the system that already exists. Somehow there's some way this system is being expanded. As I said, it's evolving. The system itself is evolving as the people are evolving. And if the system, or the so-called authorities within it, are resistant, as here with the Devil card, to that evolution, they'll ultimately find themselves left behind or on the brunt end of that deal, because only this energy here that's willing to surrender to highest self, to be in submission to source, to be in divine alignment, to be righteous in the regard of their own unique path, not in a religious sense, but doing what is upright to what they feel designed to do. Literally, what do you feel you've been designed to do by way of the experiences that you've had, the influences that you've incurred, the passions that really fuel your life, that the loves of your life. How do you allow all of that, searching yourself completely for those answers and that self-awareness, how you allow all that to come together and reverence it in a way and that it's sacred, and then ultimately allow it to overflow here with the Ace of Cups, so that it's no longer hidden in the moon energy, as I said with the High Priestess, where it's not a secret. It's not distorted energy in the moon. It's not a secret. It's not undercover. It's not an overflow that's to a detriment of your vitality, where you're being, what I'm hearing is that, Pisces energy can also be a little bit dreamy to a fault, where it's like a fantastical ideal of life that doesn't have the grounding to actually manifest. That's not that. This here, especially with the Hermit and the High Priestess coming out together, it expresses that there is great foundation, a fortified foundation for even the most fantastical expressions of life to be made manifest. So those wishes, those heart's desires of yours, those dreams that you kind of push down to the bottom, the pit of your stomach and the bottom of your heart, because you didn't really feel that you had the essence to make it happen. You didn't have the evidence that it was possible. You didn't have the experience to know what to do, or the courage, to express it boldly. That's no longer the case, because Virgo energy is here to ground the steps of the process, to make it practical, to pretty much create a practical plan for the fullest expression of your heart's desires and your dreams. Literally, Pisces is about your dream energy, your dreams. And no matter what lower vibration here is set up to be an obstruction, if your back is already turned to an internal space going within, and you're looking in the right direction, he's going to have to go elsewhere. It's going to have to find another source, another host, because it won't be able to connect to a vibration such as this. Not even in the darkest night, not even in the deepest emotion. If it's all grounded in a earth, it fortified in an earthly, I don't know how to say it, like there is a certain practicality. I know I've said that already with your passion, though. It's not just frivolous. It can be practicalized, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have all the answers and you know exactly where to go. But in a sense, the Hermit card definitely does project that you're a master of some sort, because that's what the Hermit is, to be able to master your emotional self and find grounding with it. And as I said, in this case, mastering your spiritual self, so that these wiles of the devil that would like to perhaps attach themselves to impure passion or perverted passions, things that are not really in divine alignment, that are just for immediate gratification, or to stroke your ego, or to infuse your pride in some way, or that feeds some other force of you that's undesirable. They can't really connect to that energy that's been grounded in an ethereal sense, if that makes sense. So we got the Ace of Cups and the Moon card, just an overflow here, and again with the Cancer and Pisces energy, that's like a double down on psychic intuition. You got Cancer, which is about emotional intelligence, and we got Pisces, which is about psychic intel. So again, in this full moon, pardon me, and I'm saying new, because it is going to be a new revelation for you about you. You're going to experience Emperor card here. You're going to experience yourself in some new way, as in some new position of authority over. It's like literally giving you the keys to be in spiritual authority over your life, so that it's no longer in submission to some external force or source per se. If anything, is collaborative with the source of all, or whatever supreme source you submit to or not, that's your choice. And that's the collaboration of power there and creativity, but ultimately still being ordained to be the active agent of authority in the earth nonetheless, and I feel like for many of us that's an expression of vitality that's foreign, because we've been conditioned to depend and relent to forces that are outside of our control and power, that literally seek to control us, or the expression of God that's been projected to us that is a controlling force and only looking to rain down judgment and, fire and brimstone if you don't fall in alignment. When my opinion is that it's about the collaborative force of the celestial and the earthly plane, that we are just as valuable to God as God is to us, universally so, and that it takes a collaborative force to co-create, ultimately, to make the spiritual essence of life sensational, but that's my opinion. You can have your own, but that's the authority of sovereignty that I subscribe to now. And it's a slow burn because, as I said, we've not been conditioned to that. We've not been conditioned to even trust ourselves with ourselves. Every day we are bombarded with propaganda that tells us that the human race is untrustworthy from the top down, and that we should even be afraid of, it's been projected to us that we should be afraid of ourselves and our own responsibility and in the accountability of our own energy, that we almost need to be governed, we need to be supervised, we need to be sanctioned in some way or another. And for many that haven't found that internal force and haven't surrendered to a divine alignment, that may be true, that it's necessary for courts of law and for judges and justice. Oh, that comes back to the movie. Oh my gosh, thank you, Spirit. The diabolical judge, that's the representation here with the Hierophant. I love it when the Spirit speaks, man. Thank you. We relent to these forces as if they are supreme authority, when ultimately we are divine to be the authority of our own being, and it's just a matter of you cultivating that worthiness of trust within yourself. Again, it comes from going within and accessing the truth of your nature, surrendering to it, reverencing it and submitting to it from a higher essence and authority, and always being an intention to be in that alignment, being mindful that this energy will always persist, at least as far as we know now, to decline or diminish that alignment, to disconnect it ultimately by allowing you to focus on things that are ultimately perishable and limiting, when we have the vitality of limitlessness, infinity, as it says, your potential self, keyword potential. We all have the potential to be infinite, to be unlimited. If not for this force here, it would be definite, right? But there's a potential for us to be infinite, supreme in our own being, but it has to be you have to be in agreement with that prospect of truth. It doesn't just happen for you. It's something that you have to be in alignment with and almost invite into your being. So as I was saying about this full moon, when you're experiencing these new vibrations of yourself, you can lean into it as, that soul source of authority in your life, and receive it as such, as a new expression of energy, as a new expression of force, that maybe you can do or see something that you haven't been able to do or see before, or even supernaturally so. Maybe you can hear something a little different than what you've been able to hear before, or what you wanted to believe that you could, and all of those things. You have the option to receive the gift of this expansion of evolution, or to resist it as something that's demonic, that's diabolical, that's evil, even looking at yourself as some evil expression of life. And because it doesn't align with the most conventional aspects of spirituality or religion for that matter, that it must be something that's on the opposite end of the spectrum, and therefore something that you have to distance yourself from. You have that right. You have that right to do that. I encourage you though to lean into this experience and see where it leads you. I can almost bet that as long as your heart and your mind and your spirit are in a high frequency of intention, meaning you're not looking to do any harm to anyone else, to impede anyone's process, to take anything that doesn't belong to you or isn't ordained to be yours, to try to do anything that would necessarily shorten the path to prosperity in ways that are diabolical, that are not righteous, that are not lawful in that sense, then there's no limit to where the power of all, meaning God, the source of all, could lead you. Allow it to expand you in ways beyond your imagination with this King of Wands here. See what you can do. It's a message, yeah, strength card, always with the devil lurking, but it's here. You have the strength to abstain, to absorb and abstain this power, no matter how strange it may feel. I was going to say that one of my favorite ministries is Elevation Church, and one of their sayings, I don't know if they still say it, but the pastor Stephen Furtick used to say, "See what God can do through you." And I love that saying. I believe I have that right. It's been a while since I heard him say it, but it's either see or look. No, it's see. See what God can do through you, okay? See how much your creativity expands. Oh, hold on now, hold on. There's too much going on. But we got the Queen of Wands out here. See what God can do through you. See how much your creativity and the prospects of your life expand and evolve when you allow yourself to travel into heights and depths that you didn't even know were admissible. You know, maybe you thought it was off limits before, but lo and behold, you were being called there all along and had all access to enter. All right, let's see a few more. I did say I wasn't going to do too much, but my incense is not completely burning. We got the World card here. Let me get a sip of tea to refresh. You know, when it's nice and fresh and hot, you don't want it to start sitting too long, but I love my yogi tea. The kombucha one, kombucha. Oh, wow, yeah, we got the 10 of Cups here. That's definitely a great, this is like the promise of God. That's what I'm hearing right now with this rainbow here. And this is obviously, you know, about wish fulfillment, very much so in alignment with what we're talking about, that we're more or less clearing the way with full moon energy of anything that's an obstruction to our heart's desire. So anything that you can imagine to fulfill of yourself, to have, to do, to be, to obtain, to accomplish, is possible, of course, in the right intention and justified energy, to have it be so, to manifest it, you know. And 9 times out of 10, the things that are impressed upon our heart, definitely in the most upright way, are meant for us to obtain. You know, it hasn't come across you for no reason. It's the outside external forces, and even sometimes the internal voice in that strength card, that pride and ego that tries to rear up and tell you that you're not worthy of these things, or you're not equipped to have them. You know, it's not for you in some way, shape, or form. And that's when you get to turn on your Knight of Wands energy, which I would say is like the reflective, the diffused energy of the King of Wands in this sense. He's much more mature and stable and secure in his force. But the Knight of Wands is not going to allow anyone to tell him that he can't have something. Now, sometimes it's very diabolical. But in this sense, you should be after the fulfillment of your hopes and wishes and dreams in a force that is unstoppable, which is what the Knight of Wands is. He knows the object of his passion. He knows the intentions of his of his conquering. You know, he knows exactly what sites, what territory he has his eyes set on, and he goes after it full force. Now, of course, with the maturity of the King of Wands, you relenting to your higher self and in divine alignment, you know when to turn this energy on, you know when to turn it off, or at least turn it down. You know when to invest it at its, you know, at its highest intensity, and when to fall back. That's what comes with wisdom, you know, and your experiences, which the King of Wands coming out first absolutely has. But this is the expression under the deck that's encouraging us that no matter what the resistance may appear to be. Remember, I said I used to be afraid of Dan Aykroyd when I was a kid. He seemed like a demon, a monster. That's exactly what now in hindsight they were projecting him to be. But as you get older and you realize that that's just all illusion, you should be going after the things that bring you joy, that bring you peace, that bring you happiness, that you can see as that vision of love and light in your life, and luxury, even with the 10 of Cups. That's the whole shebang. You should be going after that with everything you got. No apprehensions necessary. And laying down the burdens. Yeah, this is the total opposite of these energies, the Fool card and the 10 of Wands. This is about carrying burdens that don't belong to you, which is the disparity between these cards, totally. And being light in your spirit, light in your load, taking those leaps of faith where you're invited to do so. Don't carry this vibration of fear about yourself, and burden about even the choices that you've made over the course of your life. You're the King of Wands. You take those experiences and you turn them into something prosperous. You do something creative with the expression of your experiences. You don't allow it to overpower you. You're the most you're the most dominant king in the deck. You know, almost the emperor. That's like the next step, is the emperor, which also peeked his head out, as we saw. So you're laying down these burdens, these things that society would have you carry on your back, and to deter you ultimately from this wish fulfillment, from having a fulfilled life, a sensational life, one that is spiritually satisfying, by giving you all these burdens, telling you all the reasons why you don't deserve it, because you used to do this and you did do that, and you have the mind, you have the tendency to do this. You know, the King of Wands, as I said, I did list some of his shortcomings that are possible, you know, the things that he could fall in the pitfalls of if left to, you know, diabolical devices. He could be overly ambitious. He could be lustful. He could be aggressive. Even with that Knight of Wands card, he could be overly ambitious and, impulsive and compulsive. But that's not who you are in essence, especially when you've answered to a higher calling. So be careful of the projections of the world that would allow you, pretty much want to drag you back down. It's like bringing you back down to gravity. He can't ascend with all those wands. And some of these burdens you're carrying, or he's carrying, whomever, you know, that can relate, is carrying these burdens that don't even belong to him, that are from generations past, literally with the family card here, that are been projected to you from family and friends, perhaps, from this conditioning of society that's just been passed down continuously. You know, that's been the way of life as it is. But this is on the other side of the Wheel of Fortune, where he's already become self-aware of his true power and creativity and the pureness of it. He's already withstood the wiles of the devil within his own loins, literally. So why would you continue to carry 10 wands and 10 burdens around when you have the 10 of cups at stake? That don't add up. It don't add up. So this is a call to ultimately lighten your load. And I think it's basically coming back to what I've been saying about this new revelation of self and life experience, and maybe some of the things that are being uncovered and revealed in the psyche, or even in the physical world, your physical reality, are a bit hard to face or feel a little bit strenuous, feel more, even your gifts and calling itself might feel like more of a burden than a curse when you feel the weight of what you're up against, by way of the high priestess, the hierophant, the hermit. These are individuals, particularly the high priestess and the hermit, they don't really like to be connected with community in a sense. They kind of like to be reclusive and in solitude for the very same reasons I said in the beginning, for that fear of resistance and scrutiny and misunderstanding, and the mismanagement of their energy from the very communities that they're looking to serve ultimately by serving themselves in some way. But here it is, it's basically calling us in this full moon energy to drop that load. If it don't belong to you, just leave it, leave it and go. And trust your instincts. Matter of fact, I think this is also Virgo energy. Not Virgo, Pisces energy in a sense. I think it is as well, where this is like you going on a journey. I hope I'm not wrong about that, but I think it is. You going off on a journey to explore. And, it's almost a bit delusional in a sense with the Fool card. That's probably why it's Piscean energy, because sometimes it doesn't make sense to people around you for him to just sell everything that he owns and head off into a distant land, not knowing what he's going to meet when he gets there, not knowing if he knows, anybody where he's going, or if he'll necessarily be welcomed or rejected, or if he has enough food for the journey, enough money in his pocket. Like, the Fool doesn't think about all of that. The Fool is just focused on faith. The Fool gets the call in the highest vibration, that is. Not fools that's just out here doing anything. But in the highest vibration, the Fool gets the call to go, and the Fool goes on. The Fool travels in faith and the fortitude that whatever is needed will meet his journey, her journey, when they get there. And that's a tough space to be in. To literally drop all these responsibilities is what they are in the most practical, primitive sense. All the things you feel like you have to do, things that you feel like you have to do are always going to be more burdensome than things that you get to do. That's a little tip I learned in momentum education, that you really, in order for you to really liberate your life force, you have to, not have to, sometimes I'm still stuck in it, but you get to, which you'll often hear me correct, because it's a constant work, because we've been conditioned for so long to feel this obligation to the authorities that we have created and committed to in our lives, that you get to release some of the responsibilities and the things, just things that you feel like are of your sole responsibility, even if they aren't actually, but there's something within you or something that's been projected to you to make you feel like you can't let something go, either because somebody's expecting you, has an expectation for you or of you or from you, or it's been projected to you that this is something that you're supposed to do, that it's right to do it, or it's not right not to do it, or, even from family and friends. With this connection here, it can't be lost that sometimes it can come from the people that we're closest to, whether it's a diabolical intention or not. That sometimes the projections of those that love us and even feel like they're just, that their main objective is our well-being, there's no one that can really express that more than you. So even with the things that are projected for you to be your responsibility and that you have to do, it's important, especially in this full moon energy, for us to really sift through in that internal deep dive. What are you doing that you don't even want to do? Where are you going that you don't want to be? Who are you in connection with that you don't even feel comfortable with, or feel safe and secure around, or feel empowered with, or even like, most primitively so? These are the things that are continuing to keep you bound and burdened from ultimately reaching this lighthearted state of being and which is on his way to the life of his dreams. This energy is moving towards this diabolical force. And that's not, you know, if you're feeling captivated and contained by obligations, it's only going to be up to you as to how you get to qualify those things and release them accordingly, or retain them. Some things are necessary, but what's most important is that you change your perspective of it so that it's not a matter of you having to do anything, and it's more of a privilege and even an honor in the highest regard to do those things, or to have those things, or to be with those people, or to go to those places. Maybe it's you that has to change your vision and your perspective so that those things don't have a hold on you, and that you are allowing yourself to utilize that energy in some creative force, as the King of Wands would do. Okay? So in faith and in fortitude, carry on. All right, let's get like one more, maybe two if we're lucky. But I'm feeling like one more is good. You know how I feel about my little card structures. That was almost the sun card. That would have been nice. Ended right on the sun. All right. Okay, let's see. Here's that. Oh! Even better, the World card. The fucking World card. That's the end of a long cycle. The end has finally come of burdens, of setbacks, of you holding yourself back, of you telling yourself what you can and cannot do, or telling yourself that you might be able to do something if and when X, Y, and Z, or limiting your own beliefs of your potential energy and creative force, of resisting the spiritual evolution of your nature, you know, of pushing back on who you are in your secret closet, in your prayer closet, and your, you know, in the confines of your spiritual sanctity, you know, in the depths of your soul, on account of the fact that it's not conventionally sound or acceptable or pronounced to project this energy. It's the end of that. You're closing that cycle. Bringing it, you know, the full moons are about endings. They're about reflection. They're about releasing, resting. You've had a long journey, perhaps, to a very strenuous one, as a matter of fact. And looking back with the Nine of Wands here, you may even feel like a wounded warrior in some of the ways that you have experienced your energy being diffused in most cases, especially with this 10 of Wands, in ways that weren't even justifiable. But of course, you know, we gotta, with the Nine of Wands, I'm always saying that it's about taking accountability for your agreement with these connections, for your agreement and your acceptance, and what's the other word I heard? Your participation in this energy. You know, nobody made you do anything. Nobody put anything on you that wasn't justifiable, at least ethereally so, even if it didn't feel justifiable in nature, you know, because we've all had some type of diabolical interference. We've all had enemies that we didn't know we had. We all had people that were propped up against us, and we didn't really know where the resistance was coming from. But a lot of the times when you even reflect back on that energy, it comes back to what I was saying. It's about how you perceive it. Even if it was so-called out of your control or unbeknownst to you, you know, under the surface, under the radar, it's still your and within your control to receive it and perceive it as something that is energetically forwarding, and to take accountability for what now, regardless of what has occurred, because this is the past, right? This is the 9, this is the 10, this is the end, this is the completion. So now that you're done with this, now how do you take that energy? How do you retain what is valuable, what is vital to your journey, to this new beginning that's on the horizon? And how do you release what is not? Because now that's on you. You can't go back and undo anything that was done. You can't change the hearts of man. You can't change the course of life. You can't even change the decisions that you made on account of connectivity to any of this energy. But you can absolutely take a present moment to really take ownership over the power that and authority that you have now over your actions, over your energetic investments, over the people, places, and things that you do or do not connect with, that you do or do not invest in, that you do not create with or allow to create with you, or that you do. It's all within your power now. The end is this. That's why this is the end of this old world of feeling like a victim. Woe is me, looking back at what you shoulda, coulda, woulda done, or what shoulda, woulda, coulda been done to you, and now allowing yourself to release all of that burden, and release everything that is not forwarding, that is weighing you down in this journey. It's like the 10 of Cups is already here. This saying that I got from the peace dealer, shout out to him, is what does it say? I just wrote it down too. He says it in a different way, but how I express it is all the true desires of my heart are already with me. Is that what it is? All the true desires of my heart are already with me. Something like that, which I feel pertains to this. This is the true desires of your heart. You already have access to them. They're already, if you have the ideal of the projection of this spirit of prosperity and passion and peace and all of those high valued energies, then you already have it, because as an infinite being with infinite potential, you have access to obtain it and materialize it by way of your insistence to believe for it, to invest in that perception of it and allow it to manifest. And of course, Hermit card, to practicalize the steps that would bring it into fruition. So you already have that. That's the beginning of this line here. When you allow yourself to revert back to moments when you felt like you didn't, or you felt less than, or you felt wounded on the battlefield, you felt you were treated unjustifiably, you felt like, you just couldn't win in life, and you carry those along in your existence, that's leading you away from that spirit of prosperity. That doesn't lead you to it. See, he's going in the opposite direction. But the World card is here as an extra dose of an ending. This is the ending that has already persisted, whether you realize it or not. This is the completion, where everything that you have incurred is done. The only thing left is for you to recognize it as so, release the burden of it, receive the gift of it all and the vitality of creativity of it all, and then move forward in this new cycle, in this new world, this new evolution that is commenced already. The world is already turning, and the adverse energies that would like to keep you in servitude or submission, or under the thumb of energies that are no longer in power, and probably never really were, but definitely aren't now. Those energies know that it's only a matter of time before you have the evidence of your evolution. So, as I've been saying, prepare to experience yourself in a new way and what's being revealed in this full moon energy. And even in the transits that persist, because we got a lot of planets in retrograde that are going to be turning around, and then we're going to have eclipse season and so on and so forth. But I think there's going to be a big surge of revelation with this full moon coming. It's no coincidence that we got that huge natural disaster happening down in Florida, as we speak, in which they say, Hurricane Idalia, in which they say it can take a sudden turn at any moment. They don't even know which way it's going to go, because it could literally take a turn, as Ian did last year, at the last minute. So that as much as they're tracking, there's still no way to quite pinpoint exactly where it's going to hit and make impact. That's the spirit of this energy here. It's like the nature of us all is being reflected one to another, as above, so below, even in the ways that we can sensationalize now. It's literally bringing that experience to earth, that you're infinite. You may be thinking that you're set to go this one way your entire life. You were supposed to be a doctor, you're supposed to be a lawyer, you're supposed to be married, you're supposed to work this job until you retire, you're supposed to go to school, you're supposed to live here until you die, and then all of a sudden the spirit calls you to another place, another space, another time, another occupation, another partner, to have another baby perhaps, which is definitely that Ace of Cups that came out, and the Moon card about the Cancer, the mother. So you just never know what you're called to give birth to in this time. And it could be something more spectacular than you could have ever imagined for yourself. And that may seem a little bit scary to follow that yellow brick road in a sense, but that's ultimately leading to the true desires of your heart, what the spirit knows you truly desire and what you want, what you feel deep down in those psychic waters that have been untouched and unreachable for some of us, because not all of us have Pisces energy. I do. My moon is in the 12th house, but not all of us do. So sometimes it's hard to reach into those psychic waters and really pull out the truth of yourself or see something beyond what you see every day. This is the opportunity, perhaps once in a blue moon, as this blue moon projects, to actually take full advantage of a shift in your life that is ultimately thrusting you over the threshold of your wildest dreams in a way that you felt contained from or resistant to in the past. You can have it. You can have the world. You can have the dreams. You can have the life that you dream of. It's just a matter of if you will, transform this expression, as I said, of wounded warrior, woe is me, codependent, can't see, the forest for the trees. That this death card is an ending to that vibration, if you allow it to be so. With the moon energy here, is literally allowing you to be transformed from this perspective, for you to be made new, made whole with the world card in some ways, for you to transcend the experiences, the tribulations of life that may have been self-imposed or superimposed, for you to allow those forces, those energies to literally change you in such a way that you're probably going to be unrecognizable to yourself and certainly to others in some way, shape, or form. That how you get to see yourself now, the energy and vitality that's coming from within, now pouring without, is going to be something unlike you've ever experienced. When you look in the mirror, in that energetic mirror, you're going to see a brand new person, completely whole and satisfied, if you would allow yourself to be so. Only if, there's the option of staying in the same cycle, and there's the option of moving ahead. And it's just as clear cut as that, really no no you know, no segue at all between those two roads, you know, or maybe perhaps there is a segue. I don't know. Maybe I should just go at this point, but you get the point. Just allow yourself to be transformed and elevated by who you experience yourself to be in the light of this, the new light of this full moon. All right. I will talk to you tomorrow. We'll talk more about the full moon, and I hope you'll tune in because I think it's really interesting. But for now, as always, I leave you in peace.